Yo, 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 what is going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. Been a good minute. I will cut straight to the chase. I was smoking those Delta 8 joints again. Um, First off, I just want to take full accountability and responsibility for my choices. There is no beating around the bush. Um, and I want to apologize, first and foremost, to especially those of you who come to this channel expecting a level of integrity, uh, uh, accountability, and follow through, and example, right? An example of moving on from addictive patterns, whether it's with marijuana or Delta 8 in this case. And to be clear, the joints I was smoking, it was CBD infused with Delta 8, and each joint had less than 0.3% THC. But don't be mistaken, the reason I was smoking them was because for about 5 to 10 minutes, you get a very brief high. It's a very equivalent, it is equivalent to, in my opinion, smoking very weak shake, which is, mulchy weed, very weak weed, but even less than that. But the point is not to absolve myself from, my behaviors. It's just to give you an idea. And in a very similar way, right? A very similar pattern, right? I found myself using these Delta 8 joints as a way to cope throughout my day. And it's the thing I turn to instead of healthier forms of living, right? And the reality is that, for a better part of a year now, I've been stuck. I've been not sure of the directions I've wanted to head in my life, and certain categories in my life had been faltering, right? My health, right? Even when I wasn't smoking, even when I was completely away from whether it's marijuana or Delta 8, my health was deteriorating. I found myself being very lazy and complacent in general, and and so how it happened, in case you're curious, how it happened was, I went on vacation. For those of you who watched my last video about 2.5 months ago, I went on vacation, and as my vacation was winding down, I had these thoughts of like, man, what would sound great is, those Delta 8 joints. And that's a very classic pitfall. That's a very classic trap to fall into, right? And it just goes to show that those patterns, those neural links in the brain, they may be dormant, but they're still there, right? Because that's a typical pattern I had with marijuana, where so many different patterns. Excuse the bright sunlight here, by the way. Many different patterns, right? Coming home from a vacation, oh yeah, let's smoke. After completing certain tasks, yeah, let's smoke to celebrate, when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling up. And although it was Delta 8, and although it wasn't, full-on marijuana, some of the negative impacts in particular were basically one-to-one, right? They were the exact same. Abandoning my responsibilities, avoiding responsibilities, being emotionally absent in my relationships, my friendships, in my family, which in a sense are all reflections of how I'm treating myself, right? Because I abandoned myself. I'm emotionally unavailable with myself, such then I'm emotionally unavailable for others, right? Including this channel. And hopefully what you guys can take away from today's video, at the very least, is that you may or may not No matter how much experience or mastery or, you know, success you may have with whether it's your relationship with marijuana or abstaining from it, that it's sometimes what may happen is you find yourself making I don't want to say wrong decision, but um, redoing mistakes that you've made in the past. And this is about what feels like my 20th video making a, I relapsed, or I went back to smoking video. But every time, as much as I hate making these videos, and as much as I wish I didn't make these decisions, these mistakes, if you will, it's always an opportunity to learn. And it just deepens the pain point, centered around relapsing, which essentially for me, what relapsing means for me is abandoning everything that matters to me in favor of using, whether it's marijuana or Delta 8, as a coping mechanism and centering that around my day, right? And that for damn sure is not okay with me. But it is what it is. It's a choice that I made, and it's not okay in the sense that that's not the standard that I have for myself. That's not an example of that is not an example of who I am and what I'm capable of, and certainly not an example of who I portray myself to be on this channel and who I strive to be, for myself, for others, and especially on this channel. It's embarrassing, right? I know that there are a number of people who watch this channel who are fed up with my back and forth, and I imagine that, like I am too, one quote I read recently was that it's important not to have our self-esteem based on if we are smoking or not smoking. And I find that to be a very powerful piece of advice and perspective, because at the end of the day, it is not about that, right? It's not about are we smoking or not smoking. It's much deeper than that and much bigger than that. The ultimate, not the ultimate, but the higher standard being, am I showing up or am I not showing up? Right? Am I making decisions that are in alignment with me on a deep level, or am I not? Is my integrity intact? And I'll be honest, like if I had, because again, it's not about smoking or not smoking. I know that in a big sense it is, right? Because for many of us, our negative patterns really kind of begin and end with if we're smoking or not. And so I want to be clear that obviously it's important to pay attention to what habits are or are not helping us or hurting us. All of this to say, it's been a couple weeks now since I put down the Delta 8. I've been wanting to make this video. I just hadn't summed up the courage or the clarity on how I want to go about it. I ultimately, just ended up, just going for honesty and transparency, as I usually do with these types of videos. I appreciate those of you who understand and empathize with this process. My commitment is to obviously learn from this and move forward. That being clearly, smoking marijuana obviously doesn't really work out for me, and Delta 8 in a similar way, although it may not have the same type of strong high, if you will. Using it as a coping mechanism is certainly not effective. And not only that, man, my lungs really took a beating, because if you can think of or imagine yourself smoking shake every day, that's basically very shitty low quality weed, right? Low quality flower. And so just imagine like burning that and inhaling that every day, and my lungs took a beating, dude. And that certainly was not okay with me. Like I found myself laying in bed like wheezing, and I'm like, what is this? Like, this is not okay. This is not the standard, not even close to the standard that I hope to have for myself. Um, and so again, hopefully you guys can kind of understand where I'm coming from with today's video. I apologize, I apologize to my clients. Like, this is not, it's equivalent to, like, you can't be a fitness and nutrition coach or a fitness and nutrition point of advice, right? A point of example, if you're someone who doesn't speak, walk the talk, right? Walk the walk. And that said, right, the journey with marijuana addiction or Delta 8 addiction or just whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's a little different of a journey, right? But sorry, the car is making noise because I have the air conditioning on and stuff. But it is what it is. And so, again, to use this video as an example for you, as a teaching or a learning moment, like sometimes this is what happens, man. You remake mistakes and have to relearn lessons that you thought you were crystal clear on, and you have to go through the whole gamut of fucking taking accountability for your actions, realizing certain habits and certain behaviors just don't work for you, and you have to go through the whole process of taking accountability, accepting that, forgiving yourself for those actions, right? A lot of judgment can come from these types of decisions, but it is what it is, right? Nothing to do but to own up to it, take whatever criticism or as well as support that may or may not come your way. And I do find forgiveness is a very critical piece here, because it's like, man, like, of course I didn't want to do this. Of course I didn't want to remake certain decisions and mistakes, but here we are, and it's important, at least for me, not to hold on and judge myself or be too harsh with myself. I know what that journey is like, that path is like, and it doesn't really do anything for me. And then from there, to not even get right back on the horse, but at the very least to recommit, to follow through, and to restore, your own integrity, my own integrity, through following through, and move on, right? Just move on. And it's a great feeling, right? It's a great feeling to just to admit one's mistakes and to forgive them and to learn from them and move on. And just like that, you can move on. That's what I've done in these last 2 weeks, right? This is not my first merry-go-round. Luckily, I am proud of my ability to shut it down, right, and move on. But yeah, and I'm working with a coach in terms of doing more inner work around my relationship with marijuana, and I'm finding that on a deeper sense, it's like me turning to a coping mechanism and me not doing so well in my life sometimes, but it's also like there are certainly some self-worth conversations that surround this addictive pattern, meaning not to get too into it as this video is running long, but it's like the point is that I'm working with someone. I'm working on this area of my life continually, as many of you are as well. And I'm excited to make videos again. I know you've heard that before, and my uploads, or lack thereof, in the coming days and weeks will demonstrate how things are going. But it's good to clear the air. Again, I apologize to those of you who really look up to me to set an example, and hopefully, although I had relapse essentially with Delta 8, you can still use this video and this current moment in my journey as another example on what it looks like to, take a step back, so to speak, and how to move on. So that's it. Appreciate your time and attention as always, and your viewership. Looking forward to what people have to say in the comments, and ultimately looking forward to moving forward and learning from this, and moving on, growing on. Anyways, that's it for today. Good to see y'all again, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.